Hey everyone, Dad and Mac here. My dad used to always say to us kids, you know where all these gray hairs came from? And while I thought that was just another thing that dads say, as a first-time parent, I now realize that that was not a joke. At my college orientation about a decade ago, there was a speaker who gave this analogy that has really stuck with me over time. And while he was talking about college, I feel like this applies even more so to adult life. He equated life to a plate spinner. Now, for those of you who were born this millennium who don't know what a plate spinner is, it's an old school talent show act where this guy will spin a bunch of plates on these little sticks and he'll continue to add plates after plates until he either can't add anymore or until he fails and all of them come crashing down. In life, there are so many things that you can and want to do, and it's a skill set to learn to be able to learn how to balance all of your plates so that you can achieve your goals. Parenting is just one of those plates, but it can be one of the hardest to add to your table. Beyond the physical responsibilities of parenthood, there can also be those bonus buffet style plates of stressors that you now have to handle as well. Now, I don't want to scare anyone off from having kids, but I wanted to make this video to provide some awareness about some of these parental stressors and to let any new or prospective parents know that you're not paranoid if you worry about these things. It is completely normal and part of your parental duty. But before we run through this list, if you find anything in this video helpful, please make sure to click that little thumbs up down below, as it really helps the channel and helps get this message out to others. And make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to hear more about daily life as a parent, or if you want to get my thoughts from a real dad's perspective on some of those baby products that you may be looking into. Okay, let's get into it. The first thing that comes to mind as a parent is health. Starting that very first night as a parent, and I'm talking that very first night in the hospital, you will immediately feel the pressure and stress that comes with the harsh reality that you now have another human being that physically depends on you to survive. You're going to spend countless hours those first few days, weeks, and months worrying about every single cough, runny nose, or fever that your baby has. And you're going to spend a ton of time on the phone with doctors and nurses, running through all of those worst cases that you see on WebMD. And you're going to be doing that way more than you're actually going to be sleeping. Now, beyond that, you're going to really feel the stress when something big actually comes up. Our daughter has had 2 potentially major health issues brought up by pediatricians over the last couple of months that we now have to constantly worry about and monitor on a regular basis and possibly for the rest of her life. We have follow-up doctor's appointments that we are dreading because of the what-ifs, not to mention the high cost of specialty care providers these days. Which leads me to number 2, finances. Being a regular adult comes with a lot of financial responsibility. You need to pay your rent, you need to pay utility bills, you need to pay for perhaps a car payment, groceries, save for retirement, and even after all of that, still hope you have a little bit of money that you can use to actually enjoy yourself. Throwing a kid into the mix adds another list of bills to that ever-growing mound, and beyond the numbers, it can be stressful knowing that another human being relies on you and your income to get by. Job security becomes even more important, and if you have a bad project or if you miss a deadline, the thought of getting fired or losing your job can weigh on your shoulders even heavier. You're fired! Corporate America has ingrained in the masses the goal of climbing the ladder, but to do so takes a lot of time in and out of the office.
Hey everybody, David Wallace and I have talked, and we have decided to promote Jim to the position of co-manager.
Finding the right balance between work and life, i.e. money and the time with your kids, can be a very hard one to find, and one that I'm still trying to figure out as a dad over 2 years into the dad game. Paying for diapers versus going to a corporate happy hour to network can be one of the conundrums you may face now, and no matter what you choose, your wallet is probably going to feel it. Number 3, child safety in public. We now have to worry about threats in public, which can be very stressful. Recently, our daughter's daycare was put on lockdown for a day because the staff heard some threatening noises outside. We were notified via email about an hour after everything had been cleared, but it was a real shock to the system to realize that something could have happened to our daughter and there would have been nothing that we could have done about it. It's really sad that we now have to worry about our kids at school or at the grocery store or at the movies, but at daycare, there are also so many horror stories you hear about kids being kidnapped in public, which is one of the most frightening things to think about as a parent. As a girl dad, I'm even more concerned about it, and we've had some seemingly suspicious encounters on several different occasions.
Ooh, I'm scared now. What?
Wait a minute.
Stop following me, okay?
And maybe that's just us being paranoid, but regardless of whether that's the case or not, the stress we feel from that is real. Number 4, safety at home. Safety at home can be a stressor too. We've been very fortunate that our daughter's a smart cookie, as there have been several instances that we've been lacking in the safety awareness department as parents. If we have another child down the road, we are definitely gonna have to step up our game. But just the stress of always having your head on a swivel to keep your child from hurting themselves is another stress factor. You will push and push and push for your child to crawl, and then to walk, and then to run, jump, skip, hop. But as soon as they do, then you really have to start to pay attention and step up your safety game. I remember a wake-up call early on with our daughter when she found one of those springy door stops on the back of her door at my parents' house. She was playing with it because it'd spring back and forth and make that funny noise. But those things have these little white caps that can sometimes pop off and can be a major choking hazard. She ended up picking it up and almost put it in her mouth, but I was able to grab it from her. I did make a separate video on tips on how to baby-proof your house, so I will leave a link to that up here and down below, so make sure to check that out. And finally, number 5, speaking of getting your child to move, child development can be a parental stressor in itself. As first-time parents, I remember we would religiously read articles or check the developmental progressions in the What to Expect app about what our daughter should be doing or what she should be capable of doing each and every month as she went through that first year and a half of life. And even 2 years in, I still constantly check online to make sure that she's keeping up with the baby Joneses and hitting all those suggested milestones. Worrying that your child is falling behind can definitely weigh in your mind as a parent, and for good reason. You should want your child to be developing on track, but it can be so easy to compare your child to other kids, and if they're not tracking at the same pace, it can be very discouraging and worrying. On the flip side, and maybe this is just a me thing, but sometimes I get a little stressed out because I feel like my daughter's teachers aren't pushing her hard enough. We've had her teachers tell us on a few different occasions that they think she might be bored and that she might be ready to move up to a more advanced classroom, and it seems like every time we hear that from them, it takes weeks or months until it actually happens. So I hope this is a video that doesn't prevent anyone from having kids, but I wanted to make this video to share some of these parental stressors that we've dealt with, since you probably won't read about those in any of those pre-parenthood handbooks. And if any of you parents out there are feeling stressed, I want to let you know that you are not alone. Mental health is so important, and it's even more important for parents because your children rely on you to be mentally healthy and strong to support them. If you're a parent and you agree with any of this, I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. And if you think it was helpful to hear some of this honest feedback from a real dad, please tap that little thumbs up down below so that I know it's worth sharing this type of stuff. As always, thanks for watching.